Good evening, everybody. Bonsoir tout le monde. Alors, on appelle le début de la réunion pour une séance extraordinaire pour le budget de 2026. So tonight, we're calling to order the meeting for our special meeting for the budget of 2026. At 6 o'clock, I want to welcome, we have Councillor Jamie Fabian, Councillor Andy Schuster, Councillor Oren Sabag, Councillor Lior Azarat, Councillor Sidney Benizri, and Councillor Stephen Erdley, as well as Councillor Mike Cohen. I want to thank staff, Jonathan here, as well as Darryl, our Director of Communication. Calling to order, we're just going to do one quick thing. We're going to switch item number 1 and item number 2. Councillor Erdley will be presenting the public presentation on the draft 2026 budget, and we'll take questions after that if there are any questions from the public. So on that, I will hand it over to Councillor Erdley for presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So first I'll start by saying a thank you to our Director of Finance, Angela Marino, and our Treasurer, Anna Maria D'Andrea. It's thanks to their support we're able to present this budget and really the entire Finance Department, and also the City Manager, Director General, Jonathan Schechter, and really all the directors. Alors je vais présenter le budget. Ça serait fait presque la plupart en anglais, mais il va y avoir quelques diapos en français. Mais si vous avez des questions, vous pouvez demander en français ou en anglais. So I'll do the presentation mostly in English, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask in either language. So as the Mayor mentioned, we're going to be today presenting both the operating budget and the capital budget. So the operating budget is basically what covers our general operations, our snow removal, garbage collection, water, and so on, and the capital investment, which are larger items that we purchase. Although today we will only be adopting the capital investment budget. So today only the capital projects. I just show it here. So here's a brief overview. So again, we'll start with the budget process and guiding principles, overview of the 2026 budget, the operating budget details in terms of what makes up the large components. We'll go over the tax rates, the capital investment budget, and priorities. And again, we'll finish with questions before we adopt the items that'll be on tonight. And I'll just mention one more thing. Normally, and I'll switch to the timeline. So I was going to say is normally this time of the year, so we're in December. So normally today, we would adopt both the capital budget and the operating budget. As you can see, we've been working on this really since May and June in terms of the different steps and meeting with the department. So I would say two reasons. One, during the election period, obviously everything was put on pause, on hold. And the other is we're dependent on Montreal that hasn't finalized what we call the agglomeration quote-part, or the amount of money that we have to pay for the central city. So right now, I should mention what's being presented for those items is still officially a draft. We've gotten some tentative numbers, but not the final official numbers. So we're hoping, from what we're hearing, the numbers are going to be close. But all that to say, assuming they are, we'll be able to adopt the operating budget on Monday, January 5th. So just for residents who are watching, well, in person and at home. So again, tentatively Monday, January 5th, we'll be adopting the operating budget. So these are some of our guiding principles. I won't go through all of them, but just the obvious one is the balanced revenue and expenses. So we want and we need to produce a balanced budget. When we look at new investments or new projects, we have to make sure that, of course, that the income balances out with the expenses. We also want to try to optimize external funding. So we look at federal government, provincial government grants. One of the things that we've looked at over the last few years is looking at our core business. What is it that makes Côte-Saint-Luc? And we had a subcommittee that looked at this along with several councillors, and I would say we're very productive. And we managed to save a few costs. And one of the other things we've been looking at, I know this is a priority for the mayor as well, is efficiency and transparency. We held a budget consultation earlier in the year. It's something we continue to do. We hope, every year we hope to get more and more residents out for the consultation. But anyway, we encourage residents, again, who are in person or watching at home, feel free to send us your questions, either to myself, to the fellow councillors, or the mayor, or the finance department directly. In terms of external factors, so the biggest one, as mentioned, is what we call the quote-par, or the agglomeration apportionment. So right now, we have it as an estimate of $38.7 million. And again, we'll talk about this a bit later when we get to slide 39. We should find out in the next few days the final number, and we're hoping it to be in line with the predictions. In terms of, this is actually one of the new ones we added, in discussion with the finance department. It's resident safety and our public security facility. So it's something that, is important more and more to the council, to the city, to our residents, in terms of the world since October 7th, and just the world change, I would say, even in the last few days. Again, to make sure our residents are safe and secure. We also had water damage at the Public Security EMS headquarters at 8100 Côte-Saint-Luc Road. So we're looking to at least temporarily house the Public Security and EMS in a new location. So that's something that we'll be dealing with. Some of the other external factors that are more long-standing are, of course, climate change. Our winters are getting more ups and downs in terms of cold and hot, and the summer as well with heat waves. Competition for public tenders, the cost of capital projects, which can be unpredictable. Our water infrastructure, we've invested quite a bit. We've sleeved about 25% of the water pipes in Côte-Saint-Luc, but we still are dealing with water main breaks as the temperatures fluctuate and as our infrastructure is aging. Inflation, interest rates, real estate market conditions. I'll just share briefly our welcome tax or transfer duties. One year we were at $3 million in transfer duties, and then the next year, $12 million. So it's something that goes, swings quite a bit, somewhat of a roller coaster. The demographics of the city are something that are concerned in terms of trying to meet the needs of our younger and older citizens, technology, and of course the rising costs for goods. En termes de services que la ville offre, il y a des services locaux, par exemple dans les travaux publics, la gestion des déchets, les loisirs et les parcs, protection civile. Il y a aussi les services d'agglomération, par exemple la police, le service d'incendie, les cours, le transport commun, le centre d'urgence 911. Alors, ces services sont divisés dans les deux sections, mais pour nous, la responsabilité, c'est en termes de services locaux. C'est ça la responsabilité de la ville de Côte-Saint-Luc. Again, in terms of operating budget, we have our money coming in and money going out, and that's what we'll focus on for the next few slides. So in terms of money coming in, the biggest portion is from taxes. So if we look at an average residential home, and the way we do this is we look at our single-family homes, we look at our condos and townhouses. We see there's been an increase on average of 7.13, and in a moment I'll compare how that looks versus the city of Montreal or the island of Montreal and other cities. But basically the average residential home will see a tax increase of about 1.5%, which is quite low. In terms of net taxation revenue, we're seeing an increase of 3.55%. The reason it's higher is because, and you'll see this a bit later, the increase in evaluation was greater for the non-residential properties. So there was a shift there that allowed the city to gain a bit more revenue. We're also looking at an increase in transfer duties, and again here too, trying to find that balance between being realistic and, of course, making sure we're having a proper budget. Increasing compensation in lieu of taxes, so this is money that comes in to cover institutions such as the post office, hospitals, and schools. In terms of total tax revenue, we're looking at an increase of about $4 million. On the expense side, on the local, it's about $3.4 million. On the agglomeration quote-par, and it includes the downtown apportionment, an increase of about $664,000. And again, the total increase is about $4 million. If we look at the tax increase over the last few years, The goal has been to keep it in line with the rate of inflation. And generally, we've done that. I would say 2023, 24 were a bit tougher years. 2023, we had an increase from the agglomeration of 15.5%, and that pushed us to go to about almost 6%. And it really took us a year or two to kind of catch up. But we're down at about 1.5%. And in terms of the inflation rate, we're just waiting still for the Montreal region. We use the Conference Board of Canada, which is the one that is generally accepted by Montreal as well. And we should have that in the next few weeks. But as you could see, for most of the last few years, we've been in line with inflation with a few exceptions, and it's something we're going to continue to strive for over the next few years. L'année 2026, c'est la première année du nouveau rôle d'évaluation. Alors, comme je disais, pour le moyen de Côte-Saint-Luc, c'est à peu près 7,8%, qui est inférieur à l'augmentation moyenne pour l'île de Montréal, qui était à 12,2%. Alors, ça fait que notre augmentation, c'est plus faible que la ville de Montréal ou que l'île de Montréal. Alors, ça réduit l'impact des dépenses du quote-part pour les résidents de Côte-Saint-Luc. Et encore cette année 2026, c'est la première année et le rôle a été déposé le 10 septembre et on peut voir, si vous voulez, vous pouvez voir sur l'Internet l'évaluation de votre propriété. I'll continue. So just to reiterate, so this is a view of a comparison between Côte-Saint-Luc. So you could see, it's hard to see, but Côte-Saint-Luc is about 7.8%, where the green arrow is, and Montreal Island is about 12.2%. The city of Montreal is actually slightly higher. Because we're on the lower end, it means the impact of the agglomeration quote-part is less, so this benefits Côte-Saint-Luc. The issue which happened in the previous role was we were slightly higher, and the agglomeration apportionment or quote-part was higher for our residents, which meant for a larger increase. So this is something that changes every 3 years, and we hope, of course, to keep it a touch lower than the average. This is a more detailed breakdown in terms of by category. So for residential properties in total, the average increase was 6.5%. That includes your homes, condos, townhouses, duplex, and apartment buildings. And if you see it further broken down, single-family homes were up on average 5.3%, condos 6.6%, duplexes 4.3%, apartments 6+, were up just under 10%. And as mentioned, the non-residential properties were up 21%. And based on this, this was discussed originally at the audit committee and then brought as a recommendation to the council, which approved and agreed. We will not be spreading out the increase over the next 3 years. And I'll just mention briefly 2 reasons. One is because the increase evaluation is lower than the island of Montreal, it benefits us, so it's a lesser of impact. And well, actually, I'll give 3 reasons. And it's also the residential increase is less than the non-residential, which again benefits our taxpayers in general. And if we look at, I guess, the standard deviation or the range of the increases, most were within a few percent. I actually did the exercise myself. Most were within a few percent of the average. There were some outliers. Actually, I'll just share the outliers tended to be a bit more on the condos, which had over the last few rolls been below the average increase. So I think some of them maybe, I don't want to say were more deserved, but they had been lower. But overall, the recommendation was to not spread, and it's beneficial for virtually all residents of Côte-Saint-Luc. In terms of the impact, so this is for our average home. So again, the average, if we look at, well, I'll start with a single-family home. So a single-family home in 2020, in the previous roll, was $985,100. So it's now just over $1 million at $1,042,900. If we look at a condo or townhouse, it went from $526,900 to $555,600. And the average family home, and again, this is what we use for most of our calculations, and this includes, again, your single-family home, it includes your condos and your townhouses. The average was $757,000. It is now $811,000. And again, because we are not spreading, the amount will be the same. So what it'll mean this year, it'll mean some will have a slightly higher increase, some will have a lower increase. But for 27 and 2028, every resident, every home in Côte-Saint-Luc will have the same increase. So it'll balance it out in the following years. In terms of taxes for an average residential home, so we're looking at a family home, a single-family home condo or townhouse that was paying $6,422 will now be paying $6,518. So it's an increase of just under $100, about $96, representing an increase of 1.5%, again, in line with the rate of inflation. Maintenant, si on regarde maison unifamiliale de valeur juste en haut de $1 million à $1 042 900, c'est une augmentation d'à peu près $27, qui représente 0,30%. So again, a small increase. Now, if we look at the total revenue from the city, so the total revenue is, again, $96,800,190. So in terms of the expenses, so again, the expenses, if we look at the local portion, it's $58 million. The agglomeration and water added up, and we get a balanced budget as we've done every year. So now switching to revenues. So the majority of the revenues for the city of Côte-Saint-Luc come from taxes at just over $80 million. We have a small amount for local improvement tax, mostly linked to the Cavendish Mall development from several years ago. Revenue from tariffs for the swimming pools. So this is a tariff that was brought in a few years ago based on provincial government legislation. Compensation for city services. So this is for some properties that are exempt but still have to pay certain taxes, for example, for water. Compensation lieu tax. So this, as I mentioned previously, is up about $300,000. So this covers your hospitals, post office and school. And then we have other revenues, which we'll go into more detail in a moment. And again, totaling $96,800,000, an increase of 4.41%. Looking at a bit more detailed breakdown. So again, taxation of about $80 million, of which $38 million is going to cover agglomeration portion. And then you have the local services taxes, you have the tariffs, compensation lieu of taxes, and then some user fees. The transfer duties, as mentioned, we believe is a fair estimate at $3.5 million. Government grants, which I'll go into in more detail as well, and some other revenue. In terms of the taxes, the tax revenue, so of the $80 million and change, so about $46 million, almost $47 million is from residential properties, and again, based on an average 1.5% increase. For apartments 6+, we're about $15.3 million. Vacant land, which is up, as you know, one of the pushes from, I would say, from the central city, from the provincial government, is to try to encourage more vacant land to be developed, to improve and increase the usage in terms of residential properties or non-residential. So that's up slightly. Non-residential properties, again, is up more significantly because of by about $2 million based on the increase in their valuation, averaging about 21%. The water reserve is pretty comparable, about $4.1 million. A road reserve around $340,000, and we put in a municipal tax provision. So this is something we had previously was $40,000. This year, $150,000. The reason it's more, it's the first year of the new role. So anytime it's the first year of a new role, we increase it because we know that it's often a time where residents do contest. Although we're hoping, because the average increase again at 7.8% was lower, we're hoping that less will contest. But it's a reserve we put in just in case. Each time there's a new role, and I'll be able to share more, of course, in a year from now, how we're doing on the contestations. In terms of, again, the local tariffs and improvement taxes, so again, the local improvement taxes related mostly to Cavendish Mall, the pools, and compensation for city services. Again, so those are for exempted properties that still have to pay some fees for water tax and so on. In terms of other revenue, so this is the $14 million I was mentioning earlier. So this includes revenue from the aquatic center and recreation, permits. As I mentioned, the transfer duties we're budgeting to increase from $3 to $3.5 million. We have fines and costs that are up from 865,000 to 995,000. Part of this is we'll have extra public security officers on duty, which I'll talk a bit more about in a few slides. Interest 1.4 million. Proceeds from sale of land and lanes. This is something every year we have a few that are sold. Services rendered by Public Works. The fire department, I'll just mention. And this is one I was talking to the finance department about reviewing. It was previously around 60,000. We changed the formula. And the budget to 37,000. And in the end, the actuals were about 60,000, consistent with what they had previously been. This is because the fire department building is owned by the city, but used by the central city fire department. And then you have some other smaller items, and then government grants, which I'll talk about on the next slide. We'll give more details, and some miscellaneous revenue. So for the government grants, we've been benefiting actually quite a bit the last few years, mostly, well, in large part, I should say, because of our efforts in terms of diverting waste from landfill. So we have 500,000 for what they call the redevance. This is money that's given based on the amount of waste that is diverted from landfill in terms of recycling and organic waste collection. We have the EQ, which is a recycling grant for 800,000, and this was done a few years ago in terms of changing the way grants are given out for recycling throughout the province. For library, it's down slightly, but we're still waiting to see if the number is finalized, so it's maybe a bit conservative. Hopefully, it'll be closer to the previous number. PAD program is a small grant for home renovations. Interest on long-term debt, this is from the Ministry of Finance from Quebec. It's based on the way we get our money back for gas tax and the tech program. The Pacte Fiscal, which is mostly because of QST rebate, so is up based on a new formula that was negotiated a few years ago. A Sigmund Park grant, this is a grant that was negotiated this year to partly offset the cost of the camp and will extend from 2025 until 2028. And then some small other redevance programs. So these are used, for example, for improvements in waste collection, brown bins, kitchen collectors, and so on. And then a few small items for student summer programs and cost sharing for the pump station and fire station from the City of Montreal. In terms of the local revenue, so you could see the biggest part, one of the biggest components is the government grants. We have our transfer duties, compensation in lieu of tax, and of course the tariffs and fees that are paid to use the recreation or library and aquatic and community center programs. Alors, en termes de répartition des revenus, le plus grand parti, c'est le revenu de taxes, c'est à peu près 83,33%. Il y a aussi les autres revenus et les revenus compensatoires des impôts fonciers. Ça, c'est par exemple pour les hôpitaux, pour les écoles et pour le Post, Canada Post. In terms of the expenses, so if we look at the breakdown of the roughly $97 million in the operating budget, or taxes, about 60% is going to local expenses or local services, about 40% for the agglomeration. And this is consistent pretty much with the last few years. Now, if we look at more detailed into our local expenses, about half of the amount is going to salaries, remuneration and employee contributions. We have some service contracts, goods that are purchased, financing costs, which is on our long-term debt, for capital projects, different appropriations, and other, which is a mix of different items. So again, totaling the total portion, which is about $58 million. So if we look at, again, local expenses, these are some of the bigger items, and we'll go into these in more detail in upcoming slides. So you have the general administration, public safety, public works, environmental services, which includes things like water and waste, recreation, culture, library, the ACC, and again, we'll go through these in more detail in the upcoming slides. Ici, on va voir toutes les dépenses locales. Alors, le plus grand, c'est pour les travaux publics. Il y a le loisirs et sport, le service de la dette et l'administration générale sont les plus grands parties des dépenses locaux. As we continue with slide 31, I'll share some of the highlights in terms of the general administration. So the biggest one to mention is in terms of the elections. So in 2025, it was approximately $430,000. For 2026, it'll only be about $10,000. And I'll just mention that each year the city puts aside a reserve, and it's mentioned a few slides later. But for 2026, there'll be a much smaller expense. The other one to mention is the undistributed administrative expenses on the general side. For 2026, what we've done is we've added a buffer of $175,000 for miscellaneous services and contracts. And this is something that comes up year to year. There's some new contracts, so this enables us to better address that as it occurs. And but in general, aside from that, the expenses are in line with inflation. I'll continue with public safety. So here we see two significant increases. The biggest one is in terms of our public security officers. So during the day, currently, we have 3 officers on duty, and at night and evening, we have 2. So what it'll mean is an increase in the shifts for 24 hours. So during the day, we'll go from 3 to 4, and in the evening, going from 2 to 3. And this has been a priority of the previous council, and again, the current council, to make sure to keep our citizens safe and ensure an increased presence of public security officers throughout the day and evening. And the other point I'll mention is for public safety. We had some water damage this year at 8100 Côte-Saint-Luc Road at the EMS and Public Security headquarters. And because of that, we're going to have to at least temporarily relocate the headquarters to another location. So this includes about $200,000 for costs. And we're hoping as well to get money from our insurer to cover the expense. Continuing with Public Works on slide 33, the biggest point to mention is for snow removal. So in the previous season, we had one contractor that was doing 3 different zones within the city, and we found it wasn't working as well as it should have, and we got quite a lot of negative feedback from our residents. For the current season, for the 25-26 season, what we've done is 2 of the zones we've gone out to tender, but one of them we've taken in-house, and this is the section of Côte-Saint-Luc that's in the northeast area. So that's being done by our city workers as a pilot project for the 25-26 season. This is something that's being reviewed by the audit committee and the council, and we'll reassess a bit later in 26 and decide for the following winter for 26-27 whether we'll continue to do it in-house or go out for tender once again. Je vais continuer avec les dépenses locales en termes des services environnementaux. Alors, vous pouvez voir ici les distributions de l'eau, qui est presque la même, et aussi l'usage de l'eau. Il y a aussi la collecte de déchets. En termes de l'eau, on a vu que les citoyennes continuent à diminuer l'usage de l'eau, alors on est très contente avec ça. Mais on attend pour le code-part de l'agglomération pour avoir l'approvisionnement de l'eau finale, et on espère qu'on va avoir cette information dans les prochains jours. Continuing with our expenses on the recreation, culture, and ACC side. So I'll point out that in some cases the expenses are greater, but the revenue has also increased, offsetting the extra costs. I'll mention 2 highlights here. One is in terms of the tennis club. So you see a significant decrease in the expense. The plan is for renovations to take place in the tennis club. These are not yet final, but the previous council, again, the current council, is looking into this, and assuming the renovations are approved, the tennis club will be closed for at least part, if not the entire season. But more information will be available about this in the new year. I'll also mention in terms of the outdoor skating rinks, you see a reduction. However, the reality is the work has already even begun. It's just, rather than it being in the skating rink budget, it's been reallocated to the sports and playground apparatus budget. So it's just a shifting from one line item to another. But the work on the rinks is already coming, and we hope to get them up and running very soon. I'll continue with the Eleanor London Côte-Saint-Luc Public Library. So here we see a small increase, about 3.7%, in line with inflation, as we continue to make sure the library is the best, not just on the island of Montreal, the province, but throughout the entire country. And now in terms of debt service and financing costs, so we see some small increases. The capital repayments varies year to year, as we continue to borrow roughly $6 million and pay back about the same each year. The CMM apportionment, I should mention, is an estimate. And in terms of the reserve, I'll share that we put aside always a small amount, again, for unforeseen circumstances. And this also covers the new standard 3280, which is a requirement for asset retirement. So what that means is we have to put aside money each year in terms of if we have to clean up possible contaminants, such as in the snow dump, or there may be some trace amounts of asbestos in certain locations, which is contained. But if the city were to remove it, we'd have to cover those costs. And this is a requirement of the federal government, and all cities must do this. And I'll just mention that the auditor has been working closely with the city, and they are satisfied in terms of the way we're doing it, and we'll continue to review this each year. I'll continue with some of the various appropriations. So here we have the appropriation 2 from the working fund. So this is, again, where we borrow money from ourselves. The nice thing is we don't have to pay any interest. And these are for smaller projects, generally projects that can be done within a year, and usually ones that are in the vicinity of 50,000 at the most, or up to 100,000 possibly, but smaller projects. There's also roads financial reserve, where we put aside money to do some extra roads each year. And in terms of the election, as mentioned, previous years we put aside money, and this is something we continue to do as for provincial regulations. And there's also appropriations to the pension, depending on the year and how the stocks and bonds and so on are doing. Some small adjustments are made to the pension fund each year. I'll continue with the apportionment to the agglomeration, also called the quote-par. So right now, these are estimates. They will be confirmed a bit later in December, early January, and assuming they're close to our estimates, we will be adopting the budget on Monday, January 5th. So we're all crossing our fingers and hoping the numbers will be similar to these when the final ones come out. But what you can see is a smaller increase than in previous years. And this is due to the fact that, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, the increase evaluation for the residents of Côte-Saint-Luc was less than the average on the island and less than for the city of Montreal. And because of this, our share of the agglomeration expenses is slightly less than it was previously, and that allows the increase to be smaller. If I go back to the previous roll before this one, it was the opposite, and that's why we had much larger increases. And the hope is that our average increase is always slightly less than the one from Montreal, and that enables us to slightly reduce our share of the agglomeration expenses. And I also mentioned the water. We are still not aware of the final number, but we believe it should be in line with the previous year. We've actually been working on reducing the consumption through new bylaws and through sleeving more pipes. We've sleeved about 25% of the water pipes in Côte-Saint-Luc, so we've had less water main breaks, and we're hoping to keep the usage of water in line with the previous year. Je vais continuer avec les répartitions des dépenses. Alors, le plus grand parti, c'est les dépenses pour le quote-part d'agglomération, c'est à peu près 40%. Et les autres parties, ça inclut l'administration, protection civile, travaux publics, distribution de l'eau, gestion des déchets, loisirs et sports, bibliothèque, et le service de dette et le CMM. Alors, ceux-là sont les grands partis en termes de répartition des dépenses. We'll continue now with some of the tax rates that you'll see, that residents will see when they get their tax bill early in 2026. So for the residential rates, you have the residential rate plus the water reserve and road reserve. For the apartments, in 2026, for the first time, we've subdivided it to smaller apartment buildings, which are between 6 and 49 units, and larger ones, which are 50 plus units. And this is a new change for 26, and it's something that we are being allowed to do because of by the provincial government. I'll just mention it enables the city to adjust our tax rates, and the goal is to minimize the effect on our residents, because we know even in apartment buildings, when the taxes go up, it indirectly hits all the residents in terms of the tenants who have to pay their rent to cover those increased taxes. And by having these two categories, it allows us to adjust it to offset those increases. And finally, the vacant land, we've increased the rates slightly, and this is in line with a push from the provincial government that we believe in as well, where we want to reduce the number of vacant land, vacant lots, and encourage a bit more development in the city. I'll continue with slide 43 for the non-residential properties. So here we have some subcategories, and this is something that we started actually in 2020. We were one of the first cities to do it, and I know other cities have followed our lead, and even more are looking and examining how we're doing it. So we have different categories, including the reference, shopping malls, office towers, and railway. And again, here too, it allows us to adjust the rates based on the different subcategories. I'll continue now with our capital investment plan. So I'll mention here, it's a 5-year plan for 2026 to 2030, but the focus will be on 2026. And note that we still can and do make changes for each year. So what you see is the 26 to 2030, but next year when we do the 2027 to 2031, you will see there will be some small changes, and it's something we continue to review, but the ideal situation is where we plan long term and make small adjustments year to year. Alors, je vais continuer en termes du budget d'investissement en capital. Alors, vous pouvez voir les totals pour les infrastructures, les meubles, les véhicules, l'ameublement, l'équipement informatique et les autres en termes de l'année 2026 à 2030 et tous les totals. And in terms of the capital expenses, I should also mention that we have money that comes from federal provincial grants. This includes what's called the TECQ, or the tech grant, and this is amounts from the federal and provincial governments through the gas tax, and this enables us to do a lot of projects. We get about $12 million throughout the cycle. The tech, which this one is from 2024 to 2028, that helps us with road projects, pipe work, and sewer sleeving as well. We also have money that comes from our cumulative surplus. So when we have good years where we're able to put aside some money, we try to take that money and use it for a rainy day and to cover certain projects for the city. And the goal is to borrow about $6 million a year, which is where we're targeting for 2026. All right. And then transfer from our surplus of $704,000. So the amount that we'll be financing is about $6.7 million, and that's our goal is to finance roughly $6 million a year in terms of costs. So next, again, a breakdown in terms of the $9 million. So the biggest component, just over $4 million, is roads, sidewalk infrastructure. We have items like building improvements, water, sewer, traffic lights, parks and green space, vehicles, and other equipment. And I'll go through those in more detail in a moment. Hold on. Okay. So in terms of water and sewer, so for the upcoming year, 2026, the focus is on professional services for major sewer and aqueduct sleeving. So as I mentioned previously, we've relined about 25% of the water mains and a significant portion of the sewer pipes. So that is done in large part because of what they call the TEC or TCQ. So that is the gas tax that is done in proportion from the federal government and some from the provincial government. And this enables us to do large scale projects. We get about $13 million from the 2024 to 2028 period. So we had to submit our plan. The next step is professional services. So we hire an engineering company to help oversee the project. And then in, tail end of 26, we'll have the engineers prepare, 27, 28 to do the major work. But for next year, it's about a $600,000 expense. For roads, we're looking at Guelph from Melling to Edgemore and West Loop from Mackle to the railway. And along with that, we'll be doing some lead service line replacement to copper. And as well, throughout the year, the city, as we have issues with water mains, we continuously replace them. And in terms of sidewalks, We're looking to spend about $800,000. We were, just to give some background, we were spending about $300,000. We increased it to $600,000 to $800,000. And this is a large project that the engineering department is managing. And the goal is, again, to find sidewalks that have issues and replace them as needed. And we are going to be doing about 2,000 square meters of sidewalk, or basically roughly 2 kilometers of sidewalk. And we've done, over the last 5 years, we've done about 8,000 square meters, so roughly 8 kilometers. So we're continuously working on this and actually increasing or stepping it up. The next is a map, which hopefully you can see. Perfect. It might not be the easiest one to see, whether you're watching at home or in person, but this shows you some of the roads that have been done over the last few years. And you could see color-coded based on the year, showing the last several years, including the roads that are scheduled for 2026. En termes des feux de circulation, le but, c'est de faire des travaux sur le feu au coin de Cavendish et Fleet. Il va y avoir aussi des nouveaux conduits et des nouveaux fils pour les lampadaires sur Sunrise, Wildwood, Clover et Caldwell Maplewood. Cette année, on a fait sur le chemin de Cavendish, entre Merton ou entre Fleet et chemin de la Côte-Saint-Luc. En termes des autres travaux pour les parcs, il y a l'achat des arbres, il y a l'amélioration du parc Trudeau sur le chalet numéro 3 et un nouveau patinoire de rue pour street hockey. Il y a aussi des améliorations des petits parcs. Je vais dire quelques mots sur les parcs. I'll share a little bit because these are some of my favorites. The small park project, which is about $500,000. So for Rembrandt, we're looking at scheduled an adult seesaw and some fence replacements. For Glen National Park, a new piece of play equipment. For Roebuck Park, replacing the sand with wood chips. For Earl Park, a new bathroom, which we need for the area residents. Fletcher Park, replacing a broken surfboard, skateboard structure that had to be removed, and also replacing a section of the fence. For Trudeau Park, redoing the roof of Chalet 1 or the Lawrence Bergman Chalet. For Ruth Kovac Park, adding a pathway to connect the two roads. And for Mitchell Brownstein Park, a new shade structure. Il y a aussi des nouveaux bancs, des tables qui sont ajoutés cette année, dans l'année 2026. In terms of other improvements, another big one, which has been talked about for many years since I had the Public Works portfolio, was the building envelope. So there's going to be some upgrades there in terms of for environmental reasons, and to replace a section of the roof at the recreation building. For vehicles, you could see a list here. So we have a 6-wheel dump truck replacing a 2008 vehicle, a cargo van 2010, public security vehicles replacing some from 2021, an EMS SUV, again, replacing a 2015 vehicle. And on the heavier vehicle side, a salt box going back to replace a 2013, a street sweeper replacing a 2008, an asphalt heated box replacing a 2016. And I'll just mention what we often do when it's a vehicle that's, let's say, a public security vehicle, which is probably the most driven vehicle in the city fleet. What we'll often do is after retiring it, it'll be used by Public Works or it'll be used by VCOP. So we keep using them. And at some point, if a vehicle is too old to be used by another department, we do sell the vehicles off, and it generates a small revenue from that as well. Finally, in terms of office equipment, so we're doing switching, replacing some switches for the city. So this allows better use of the internet, staff computers and equipment, what the city has had to do as many companies as well. So we basically, many of our devices were on Windows 10. In October, the government, or I shouldn't say the government, Microsoft ended service for Windows 10. So we have to replace or upgrade them to Windows 11. Some of the older devices cannot be, so they need to be upgraded. For the security committee projects, so this includes some cameras and older fire panels. So they've been doing quite a big work to go through the fire panels at all the buildings and replacing many of the older ones. The compressor, one of the compressors at the indoor pool also needs to be replaced. The ACC fitness room, and this is one I get some feedback from residents on, and some of the equipment is a bit old, so that will be replaced. And the Whibbit, which is a flotation device, a large flotation play structure that's used by kids, and my children used this many years ago, and it's, I guess, a bit dated and need a replacement. In terms of furniture, there's upgrades to the greenhouse study area in the library, which is also one of my favorites, and purchase and installation of building shed for the Public Works yard. So these are in the back corner of the Public Works yard. Some of the sheds are showing their age, and many were there, again, from when the time I had the Public Works portfolio and before, and are in need of replacement. And with that, we are done the presentation on the budget. So I'll stop sharing. And again, I apologize to those watching at home for the technical difficulties, but through the magic of technology, Daryl will make it hopefully look perfect for the YouTube version. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you very much, Councillor Early. So it was a great presentation. And again, I want to thank the staff for having worked on this intensely over the last months, and for Council also agreeing to modify a few things after I came on to Council. So in quick summary, there's some people have seen their tax evaluation or the evaluation of their homes go up significantly. The overall tax increase will be 1.5%, which means, again, most homeowners will see a very modest increase, $27, $100 sometimes. Some will see a bit less, or even a slight decrease in some cases. So I'm thrilled that we were able to limit our tax increase to 1.5% for homeowners. What's clear is that development of the city is critical. We need to develop, our master plan needs to move forward. Our master plan is necessary to be able to afford the growing needs of the community. It was held back. We're moving it forward, and that's going to help significantly in the city's capacity to do more roads, more infrastructure, more of the things that we want to do. But this year, what we are doing is we are investing more in roads, more in infrastructure, more on our sidewalks, security. We're going to have cameras in the underpasses. We're going to find out about that sometime soon. So, and additional security officers. So security is definitely up there. Our infrastructure, as needed, we're going to be increasing our investment in our infrastructure. We also have a lead pipe issue. These are things we're going to be addressing in the coming years, and I'm looking forward to those changes that will be coming. So that was the presentation that we had on the budget, and now we're at the first question period. So I don't know if there's any questions that we have here today. Please, yeah, come on. And again, because this is a special council meeting, the questions should pertain to the budget. Okay, thank you.
We have a few medical services in Montreal. So with some Maimonides, Mount Sinai, private medical centers like Hilder Center, and 2 CLSC centers at the Cavendish Mall. So that's a lot of medical centers. Some of them are renting facility. Some of them are hospital facilities. So I'm not sure how this works. And some of them are in the Cavendish Mall. The amount that you have here covers any of these medical centers?
No, those are all paid for by the provincial government. What we're looking at here, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure I know which line number you're talking about, but that would be EMS services, our emergency medical services that we have, our first responders that we have through the city.
So it's just ambulances that you're referring to?
Well, not ambulances proper. We have a first responder service at the city of Saint-Luc run by volunteers, and obviously we have a staff that runs the top level. But that's the services that we're referring to. It's the EMS services.
Okay, so in terms of budget, when you're presenting budget, we do have 2 major hospital services.
Those do not fall under the city purview. Those are paid for by the provincial government.
They're paid for by provincial government. They are in City of Saint-Luc. So what's our connection to them? when they're located in the city of Saint-Luc, do we have a connection to this?
The only connection that we have to them is that they're in the city of Saint-Luc. So we clean the streets, sidewalks around them. They don't pay taxes, but the province does transfer us funding. And that's a line item that you see in our revenue. It's in funds in lieu of taxes. So we get a transfer from the provincial government for the land that they occupy. That goes for the schools as well as for the 2 hospitals that we have on our territory.
Okay, so for example, if they're expanding right now, which they are in the back of Mount Sinai, that has nothing to do with.
In back of Mount Sinai is Hydro-Quebec, and that work has nothing to do with the hospital.
Okay, so when we have Bill 2 right now, which is affecting our medical system, do we have any communication with the city of with the city of Montreal and Bill 2 and 2 hospitals that are in our city?
Bill 2 has been put on hold for now, and that has nothing to do with the hospital services that we have. It affects the doctors, but it doesn't affect the physical presence of the hospitals that we have on our territory.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Lily Yesevich, 6590 Mackle. First, I'd like to thank Councillor Cohn, Mayor Torgman, and Côte Saint-Luc Security for taking care of the parking problem at the ACC so quickly, so efficiently, 100% perfection. I briefly went through the budget, the rates for the going forward, and I noticed that the fun card doesn't have special rates for a senior family. You have a line for a senior, I think it was $85 or something, but all the other lines are for families. So I would suggest that because we have such a huge population of senior citizens, myself included, who use all the facilities, we should have a family rate for seniors like me. So instead of being, $85 per person, you should have it the same way you have family rates, that there should be a line for senior citizens who have more than one person in the house.
No, yeah, I appreciate the question. So one thing that I do want to say, and I will pass you the word, Councillor Erdely, is I do want to have a review of the fund card fees. It's something that I've already started the discussions on. It's something that I'd like to revamp in a innovative way. So we are.
Yeah, it's pricey.
Sorry, just if I may clarify, I'm looking at page 40 of 98. Well, I believe you're referring to what's actually on the next special meeting at 6:50, but.
Yeah, that's what I was looking
Yeah,
at.
so there is a fee for seniors for the fund card.
Yes, but it's a single fee. It's not a fee for seniors who live together in the same home. It's a single fee per person.
Oh, so sorry. Okay, so you're saying there's no senior couple fee?
Yes.
That's what, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Hi. It's really interesting, Stephen. Thank you very much. Great presentation. I just want to ask a question with regard to the tennis club. The slide 35 says tennis club will be closed for part of the season, subject to approval of renovations. I see that the note 1 is budget $7,250. What's just to basically turn the key. So what I'm understanding here is that the tennis club will be closed in this next season.
What I foresee happening with the tennis club, and we're having a meeting on that with some of the councillors after this meeting, is a new innovative way of how the tennis club can service all Côte Saint-Luc residents. We currently have 215 residents that use the Côte Saint-Luc Tennis Club, and it's it has great courts. I agree. The loss that the city sees on a year-over-year basis is significant. The amount of investment necessary that the city had projected to invest in that tennis court was disproportionate, in my opinion, relative to the amount of people that use it. So I just put a pause on it. We're going to be looking at innovative ways of managing this tennis court in a way that more people can use it, in a way that we can use it possibly 12 months of the year instead of 4 months of the year. So we're looking at things differently, innovative ways, and in ways that we can save the city money and even possibly generate money for the city.
Okay, well, I guess that pretty much answers what I was looking for, but I wanted to highlight, because I had some casual conversations with some counselors, that there is a proposal that was made on September 15th, 2025, and it's very detailed. The previous council met, thanks to Andy. She brought us all down to the tennis club. We met in July. We visited, the club in detail. Then Andy and Cornelia and we went out to see a padel operation. I think that at the very least, I would hope that the council will look at the proposal that was prepared in 2025. In October 2025, which is like, September 15th is when it was filed. But I have a hard copy here. The digital copy actually has all kinds of hot links where you can go and see exactly the kind of issues that come up when you're dealing with clay courts. And I would just hope that it continues in the vein that it was originally proposed, which was that the vision is to restore and modernize the facility and transform it into a vibrant, welcoming racket space, but not to make it into an exclusive, high-end, membership fee. I mean, when you're talking covered 12 months a year, then it's a completely different league. This is an affordable, family-oriented club. And as soon as you start looking at, a covered facility for 12 months a year, talking about membership that is out of the league of the residents who are.
I don't think you've seen any proposal yet.
No, I haven't seen anything,
Well,
but I'm
but-
just
but
saying it's a
this council
completely
that
different
we're-
vision.
Right. What I
But,
love about this council is that we're open to new ideas. We're open to looking at things differently.
okay,
There are
so
proposals on the table. I understand that you had one prepared. But
I just,
what we're going to do is we're going to go to tender for this, where it's going to be an open tender, and we're going to make sure that our city's residents all have access to a club as opposed to something that is exclusive. So I do want to look at something in an innovative way. That's the direction we're taking. And the fact that there was something that was looked at in 2025 is great. It's a start. We're going to move things forward.
okay, well, at least, I'm just asking because honestly, like a lot of effort was put into this proposal, and I think it's worth looking at it in terms of, what are the costs, what are the advantages, obviously you have to look, and I totally appreciate that as, new mayor, new council, you want to, come up with new ideas, but I just felt that this document should at least be read and reviewed because it was done, in a very thorough fashion, I believe. So I'm to understand then that when you're going to capital investment budget for the surplus projects, the tennis club is not in that list either, right?
No, it's not.
Okay, so it's been taken off completely.
It comes out of a fund that we still have access to. It's just not in the proposed projects as.
Okay, so what is on the list of the accumulated surplus
Well,
projects?
we're going to be getting to that in item number 4.
Are you going to be sharing the list?
It's part of the public documents.
No, it's not.
No, that's the presentation, but the item number 3 should have, Mr. Schechter should have all the details.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, look, I mean, I totally get it. I understand, but I just feel that at this point, at least look at what was already invested in this exercise.
We're not throwing out any other
Okay.
proposals. We will be looking at everything.
All right,
but
okay, as far as, okay, so happy Hanukkah, thank you very much. And
Former Councillor Burku, I just re-forwarded it to council, so it's at the top of everybody's email, the September 15th brief.
right,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. No other questions? I don't think we have any public questions on this. Okay. Right. So that brings to an end the item number, item number 2 question period. And now we move to item number 3, the adoption of the capital investment budget 5-year plan. This is the plan that deals with our roads, our infrastructure, and other major projects planned for the years 2026 to 2030. The next year's projects are pretty much well underway in terms of planning. The future years, this is a proposed plan, obviously subject to change over the next years. So on that, Councillor Lior Azarad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Be it resolved that the Saint-Luc City Council hereby accepts and adopts the 5-year capital expenditure plan for the 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, and 2030 years, totaling $51,834,400 plus applicable taxes, hereby annexed to the minutes to form an integral part of that said document entitled Annex I.
Thank you, Councillor Azarad. Seconded, Councillor Fabian. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Motion passed. Thank you very much. Item number 4, approval of the accumulated surplus projects for 2026. This is the projects for trees, parks, and other elements that were presented earlier by Councillor Erdely. And on that, we're Councillor Sidney Benizri.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Est résolu que pour l'année financière 2026, le conseil municipal approuve le financement à partir de son surplus accumulé des projets suivants. Achat des arbres jusqu'à un maximum de $118 300, plus les taxes applicables. Petits projets dans les parcs, y compris d'équipement des terrains de jeu, jusqu'à un maximum de $512 500, plus les taxes applicables. Terrain de hockey de rue et rénovation du chalet 3 du parc Trudeau. Panneaux d'électricité jusqu'à un maximum de $40 000, plus les taxes applicables.
Merci, conseiller Benizri. Secondé par conseiller Sebag. Des questions, commentaires? Alors, all in favor? En faveur? Merci. Et c'est approuvé. Maintenant, on passe au item numéro 5, c'est l'approbation des projets de fonds de roulement pour 2026. Ça, c'est des fonds où on se prête de l'argent, la ville se prête de l'argent pour des projets. Ça, c'est des projets de caméras de sécurité dans certains endroits, équipements d'informatique pour la ville. Et sur ça, je vais demander à conseiller Schuster.
Merci, Monsieur le maire. Be it resolved that for the 2026 fiscal year, the City Council approves the borrowing pursuant to a non-interest-bearing loan from its working fund for the following projects. Upgrade of the switching system up to a maximum of $75,000 plus applicable taxes to be amortized over a period of 5 years. Purchase of computers and accessories up to a maximum of $67,000 plus applicable taxes to be amortized over a period of 5 years. Purchase and installation of security equipment, fire panels, and cameras up to a maximum of $50,000 plus applicable taxes to be amortized over a period of 5 years. Replacement of the indoor pool compressor up to a maximum of $19,000 plus applicable taxes to be amortized over a period of 5 years. Replacement of ACC fitness room machines, there's a typo there, please, up to a maximum of $65,000 plus applicable taxes to be amortized over a period of 5 years. Purchase of Wibbit flotation unit aquatics up to a maximum of $25,000 plus applicable taxes to be amortized over a period of 5 years. Purchase and installation of building shed for the Public Works Yard up to a maximum of $88,400 plus applicable taxes to be amortized over a period of 10 years. Purchase of new signs for all the parks up to a maximum of $26,500 plus applicable taxes to be amortized over a period of 5 years. That the city shall provide every year out of its general fund a sum sufficient to repay the various loans back into the working fund. And
Merci.
I believe most of these have been explained. I just wanted to comment that the park signage will include additional information, I believe, such as park hours, emergency telephone, and other possible details.
Yeah, the
Still final. That,
the
yes,
the
that's
design
right.
hasn't been finalized yet, but we will be looking at that. Thank you very much, Councillor.
There you go.
Leslie. Thank you, Councillor Schuster. Seconded by Councillor Cohen. Any questions or comments? No? All in favor? Unanimously approved. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end. Alors, on est à la fin de la première séance publique. Alors, on est à l'ajournement de la séance. Est-ce que j'ai un vote?
Move to
Vote.
adjourn.
Alors, Councillor Schuster, secondé par conseiller Fabien. Tous en faveur? Merci beaucoup et ça termine notre séance. Merci.